Railway di sini masih premature, walaupun kereta api is an amazing organization with really amazing leadership. Tapi there has to be a full chain to support them. In India, around 20 years ago, the government came up with the concept private rail logistic operators. Jadi those guys could invest, bukan untuk engine. Engine masih butuh dari Indian Railways. Tapi invest untuk rake capacity yang tarik kargo. Private fleet. And then you could block your space and time slot to pull your cargo and service the operators maupun shipping line atau industri langsung. And it's now a thriving industry. It's been 20 years.
Jadi penggunaan jalur kereta sebagai kargo ya?
Khusus kargo.
Sobat semua, selamat datang di Dunia Pro, podcast pertama di Indonesia untuk profesional dan eksekutif. Hari ini kita kedatangan tamu istimewa, teman saya Valkin Clive de Mello. Beliau adalah praktisi, pengamat, sekaligus juga sebagai pengusaha di bidang transportasi, logistics, dan supply chain. Selamat datang, Bro Valkin.
Terima kasih, Bro. Very honored to be here. Maaf ya, Bro, kita campur ya bahasa Inggris dan bahasa ya untuk podcast ini ya.
Saya lupa jelasin ini. Valkin ini, saudara-saudara, jadi Valkin ini sebenarnya aslinya bukan orang Indonesia. Aslinya dari India.
Betul.
Jadi ini adalah generasi pertama yang naturalisasi berkebangsaan Indonesia sekarang. Jadi ya bukan pemain bola aja yang naturalisasi. Ada juga profesional dan eksekutif yang naturalisasi ya. Menarik banget itu.
Potensialnya Indonesia itu ya. They drawing all the talent over here ya.
Iya. I think we should draw more talent to Indonesia.
Saya selalu bilang ya, Indonesia itu seperti America of the 19th century ya. Bring in all the wide range of people, itu Bhinneka Tunggal Ika kan. Potential for growth ya. Wild West.
Dan yang paling menarik ya, when I first met with you, when you show me gitu, lo punya kalung itu burung Garuda itu.
Wah,
itu gue tersentuh juga sih.
Itu Garuda di dadaku, Bro ya.
Garuda di dadaku tuh beneran.
I guess kan karena saya udah dewasa saat bisa pilih kan yang which is my home ya. Wah, ini Indonesia yang resonate. So it's really something that I believe in ya.
Iya. Tapi orang tua nggak di Indonesia ya. You are the first generation yang jadi orang Indonesia.
Betul.
Menarik. Story-nya gimana, Bro? Bisa cerita sedikit ya?
Ya, saya datang sini Bro, ada transfer dari salah satu shipping line ya. Masuk dari dulu di Cina. Jadi 4 tahun di Cina, saya kira kok Indonesia ya. Kenapa Indonesia ya 2004, 2005. Oke, saya
baru lepas dari krisis tuh.
Ya, saya kata, ya udahlah, saya coba 2 tahun terus balik lagi ke Cina. Datang sini tiba-tiba udah rasa cocok. I got a feeling something is nice here, ada potential. Lihat ada selain, karena saya masuk Unpad Mas, tiba-tiba tahu ada potential bagus untuk air freight, terus untuk cold chain, batu bara. Two-year assignment has changed to a lifetime. So
cold chain sama batu bara, we're talking about shipping,
ground, trucking, semua Bro. Karena ini sampai sekarang ada beberapa klien saya yang masih aktif untuk batu bara dan untuk cold chain. So I'm looking at the wide range of things.
Tapi your background itu originally awalnya itu apa? Shipping atau land transport?
Itu shipping, mulai dari shipping untuk khusus PT Mas. Tapi saya pernah training di Denmark. Di sana mereka kasih kursus untuk yang lain-lain seperti curah, cold chain, logistik, air freight. So then saat saya pindah ke Cina, mereka minta saya bantu untuk divisinya logistik. Pindah dari khusus shipping ke logistik dan ya macam-macam Bro. Tapi selain itu saya udah kerja di sini untuk di dunia batu bara, nikel ore, keizinan kapal. Seen it all ya, dari Sumatera all the way to Timika juga.
Jadi terlepas komoditinya apa, barangnya apa, pokoknya anything to do with transportation and supply chain lah, bisa dibilang begitu ya?
Betul. To be honest, yang kalau lihat yang untuk courier, it's not too much in my space. Tapi ya dari air freight bisa bilang gitu. Air freight dan saya juga pernah bantu delivery kan, yang salah satu digital trucking service. So over there I've touched upon it. But I've never been in the courier business, itu aja. Selain itu udah hampir semua.
Ya. Itu satu-satunya yang belum di-touch ya.
Iya, belum touch, but not directly. But as a client or a vendor gitu aja.
Oke. Nah, ini yang menarik adalah waktu kita pertama kali ngobrol-ngobrol, kita ngobrolnya lebih ke makro. Jadi bukan mikro gitu ya dari sudut pandang pengusaha transportation and supply chain and logistics, tapi lebih ke makro. Ada beberapa isu gitu loh dengan transportation and supply chain di Indonesia. Dan ini tentunya bukan observasi kosong ya. You've been here for a very long time sebagai pelaku juga, pengusaha juga. Kalau makronya isunya apa, bro, dengan negara kita ini?
Ya, kalau lihat di dunia logistik sini, we have this touted number ya. Biaya logistik ke GDP itu 23% kurang lebih ya. Plus minus 1-2 ya. Itu tinggi banget, bro, luar biasa. Kalau lihat Thailand itu 14%, Malaysia mungkin 11-12%, Singapura of course di bawah itu karena negara kecil juga, tapi 20% lebih itu beban. Karena kita bicara kenapa foods, ini itu pengaruh semua society kita kan. Bicara kenapa ada masalah, mungkin bisa tiket penumpang atau bahan pokok, food import security, export jobs, creating manufacturing demand, everything in the end. Kalau kita nggak bisa compete sama contohnya Vietnam, yang investor atau export buyer akan pilih negara lain. So it's a big issue. Kenapa bisa begitu? Of course biar Nusantara kan, jadi dari itu geographical issue. Tapi selain itu mungkin nggak pernah ada terlalu banyak fokus ke supply chain ya. Our industry is fragmented. Yang saya pernah baca, cuman the big boys control only 3% market share. It's very small. Jadi maksudnya too fragmented.
Sorry, big boys maksudnya apa?
Big boys maksudnya bisa bilang kalau DHL atau Nippon Express atau all foreign names ya. They don't control market share. Kalau contohnya maybe negara seperti India atau China, the big boys can control 20-30% market share. Ours is very fragmented ya. There's no one player or bunch of players who can make the economy, the industry mature. Not yet. Not yet.
Iya. 23% dari total GDP itu besar sekali.
Besar sekali.
Iya.
Ya, harusnya half lah. 11-13% masih bisa bilang oke ya untuk negara ini.
Iya. Karena remaining komponen itu mungkin kayak energi salah satunya gitu ya. Jadi yang membuat ekonomi jadi tidak efisien ya.
Tidak efisien dan we can see it kan the result. In the last 6 months kita lihat ada deindustrialization. Ada banyak pabrik yang mau pindah dari Indonesia katanya atau gak mau expand. Itu masalah besar kan karena age group demographic kita masih ada banyak yang anak muda kan. We need jobs. Terus jadi the focus of the country has to be creating jobs. And supply chain is part of the job creation. Tapi it's also a catalyst kan. Kalau terlalu mahal, orang akan pikir ya kalau walaupun OMR di Jawa Tengah murah, tapi kalau logistik akhirnya lebih mahal untuk kirim ke contoh USA, mungkin mereka akan rasa udah pilih di Vietnam aja. So we have to look at all the factors kan. It's not one size fit all. Kadang-kadang kalau kita lihat retorik, saya bilang retorik ya karena di politik itu retorik. Young country, sumbernya bagus, banyak yang the SDM, tapi but then it's the glue that fits it all together is it has to be an end product yang bisa compete. Let's not even talk about China kan, compete regionally aja. Kita harus compete sama Thailand, Vietnam, maybe to some extent Malaysia. Philippines masih di belakang, but we never can be complacent kan. So this is where supply chain is not the only thing, of course. Tapi with 23%, obviously we can see it's a big impact juga. And we have to push that down somehow.
Terus story-nya your interest ya, were peak atau intrigue dengan macro issues itu dimulai dari mana? Karena Bro Falkin kan awalnya dari micro ya, jadi dari pengusaha ya, dari sudut pandang pengusaha.
I suppose yang ya mungkin maybe around 10-12 tahun lalu saat saya mulai bisnis batu bara dan nikel ore ya. Saya udah lihat gimana situational di daerah timur. Ya, I thought, why is it like that ya? Kenapa mungkin ada bandara yang lihat bagus tapi in the wrong location or overbuilt spec gitu. I started realizing that saya mulai compare ke pengalaman saya di luar negeri.
Okay.
Let's use India as the best example. Though I've been to China, I lived there kan 4 tahun. Tapi saya gak suka pakai China karena it's not the same political structure or demography as us kan.
Okay.
Tapi India kayaknya cocok. Big country, secular, democracy. Yeah. So I started realizing that di sana swasta sangat agresif untuk invest in supply chain. And then the government realized sekitar 20-an tahun lalu that they had to get away from holding everything too much. There's a difference between patriotic and jingoism.
Jingoism apa tuh Pak?
Ya itu yang rap ourselves, kami gak mau jual negara kami ini ke orang asing.
Okay.
Jadi maksudnya apa ya? Kita lihat the Indians, the Chinese,
misplaced nationalistic pride.
And I am, as you know, with my Garuda very nationalistic. Saya juga gak mau jual aset negara karena itu untuk generasi depan kita kan, untuk anak dan cucu. But we cannot be so yang di bahasa Inggris itu chip on the shoulder kan, insecure. Oh no, we will do everything ourselves. Ya mungkin bisa, tapi then we are reinventing the wheel kan. Yang bisa di dalam 5 tahun, 10 tahun kita akan butuh 20 tahun, 30 tahun ya. Jadi itu emas 2045 bisa delay atau bisa lebih cepat if we are smarter kan.
Okay.
So if you see India, they realized and it's not perfect juga kan. No country is, but India they realized yaudahlah, we will start bringing in the private sector. And what was interesting there was that the private sector bukan cuma orang asing, grup lokal juga. Because they felt that now they felt that the government is really supporting. Ada BUMN di sana juga, but the private sector got strong. Jadi you will see ada pelabuhan di sana yang operational, grup lokal yang cukup besar, grup asing juga seperti Dubai, Singapore ada di sana. Terus you have airports operated by, contohnya Zurich Airport. You have airports operated by Indian groups like Adani. In 25 years, in one generation, bro. Remarkable kan? Then they did the same thing in railway. Railway di sini masih premature, walaupun kereta api is an amazing organization with really amazing leadership. Tapi there has to be a full chain to support them. In India, around 20 years ago, the government came up with the concept private rail logistic operators. Jadi those guys could invest, bukan untuk engine. Engine masih butuh dari Indian Railways. Tapi invest untuk rake capacity yang tarik kargo. Private fleet. And then you could block your space and time slot to pull your cargo and service the operators maupun shipping line atau client industri langsung. And it's now a thriving industry. It's been 20 years.
Jadi penggunaan jalur kereta sebagai kargo ya?
Khusus kargo.
Kalau di Indonesia kan kebanyakan masih untuk penumpang ya? Atau batu bara mungkin sebagian.
Batu bara is the first success story for kereta api and cargo in a big way. Sumsel. Tapi to be precise bro, kalau di India juga first priority of rail is masyarakat. Penumpang. Tapi they have made the policy, the structuring, the window, it evolved where cargo gets its time slots. Indonesia is on its journey to it, tapi masih jauh. Udah maybe 20 years behind. Why should we be 20 years behind constantly kan? Kita harus cari catalyst biar catch up juga. It's a thriving industry. So I just looked at the difference and like, kenapa? Harusnya Indonesia juga bisa, because it's not rocket science, it's all about will kan. We want to reduce cost, we want to create more jobs. We have semua bahan ada, bahan maksudnya asset, SDM. How do we pull it together kan, itu aja. So I started getting interested with that.
Tapi ada juga pendapat gini bro, pendapatnya adalah bahwa aset yang mempengaruhi hajat hidup orang banyak, directly impacting the welfare of the people, has to be controlled by the government. Ya, itu ada juga dalam undang-undang seperti itu. Kalau Bro Falkin lihatnya gimana kalau dalam konteks infrastruktur supply chain-nya?
Contohnya apa? Seperti rail atau pelabuhan atau apa?
Pelabuhan misalnya gitu ya, pelabuhan ferry, pelabuhan peti kemas, terus ada lagi misalnya ya kereta dan sebagainya gitu ya.
I mean again, to be honest ya, it's all about regulation and then implementation. Bukan ini private airport operators, rail operators, port operators, there's nothing new di negara lain kan. Di sini juga ada tapi not as much. Bukan di sana masyarakat dapat second priority kan. It's there, they are protected, they have to be protected. Apalagi yang demokrasi kan. Kalau lihat India, again I go back to India as the example. There are ways to regulate it and you don't give away the full port kan. You don't give away the full airport, itu concession kan. Mungkin one terminal in Jakarta contohnya bisa, atau Bali, new Bali, or even the existing Bali, but then you have your separate section that is kept untuk masyarakat. Sama kalau untuk ferry terminal, ASDP will always give penumpang prioritas, which is correct. That's their reason to exist kan. So it's nothing new bro. Kita bisa belajar dari yang pengalaman negara lain, and we can accelerate what we are behind on gitu.
Kalau berdasarkan observasi Bro Falkin ya, kan dalam 10 tahun terakhir kan yang banyak kita dengar adalah pembangunan infrastruktur. Pembangunan infrastruktur supply chain sejauh ini bagaimana?
From what I can
kita lihat dari intermodality lah ya, dari sea, air, land.
Kalau saya lihat itu lebih ke toll roads bro. I might be wrong, but it's more toll road, which is important juga. Starts connecting people on the local economy kan, domestic economy juga penting. Karena Indonesia one of our resilience karena domestic economy cukup kuat. So our hits from global recession is low. So the toll roads have been vital kan, permitting domestic trade gitu. But I think we should be accelerating more in terms of ports, airports. Salah satu contohnya, my favorite is, as per the International Maritime Organization agreement kan, international law, I think around 60% of Selat Malaka itu alihkan ke Indonesia, yang sisanya ke Singapura, Malaysia. Jadi maksudnya apa? Kargonya yang lewat situ harus ada otoritas Indonesia yang bisa bantu untuk apa? Pemanduan, STS, bunkering. But we are nowhere near Singapore and Malaysia in actual ability to capture that market. You know, and in even Selat Malaka, kita lihat Singapore is one story. Selain itu ada Malaysia, Tanjung Pelapas dan yang Port Kelang. We should be having one of our ports that is actually a strong base over there. And why not kan? Kita ada kan, kita ada Batam, kita ada Dumai gitu, contoh-contoh. But we have not done it. Tanjung Pelapas mulai di 1999 ya. 99. Sekarang mereka udah 1% GDP yang saya lihat.
Port Tanjung Pelepas di Malaysia di mana bro?
Di
berapa jauh dari
just across from Singapore bisa bilang.
Johor Bahru.
Somewhere in that region.
Around that area. Okay.
In 25 years, they've become 1% of the GDP, and they have become a player that is recognized internationally. Tapi kita masih belum ada ya yang port that is recognized as an international hub. We have some amazing ports here like Tanjung Perak, Tanjung Priok, tapi they are all still our port in khusus mungkin Jawa Barat, Jawa Timur gitu. But we don't have one port. I'm not saying transshipment is the key, but why shouldn't it be there when we have the natural resource for it? And again, we have not had that pieces pulled together that makes it happen. Semua bahan ada bro. We're just not pulling it together, and that's where I think the government has to push that will top down, and then of course let the capital flow as needed. As we know, capital money flows where it's needed. It will not go where it's not, and you cannot force the private sector. Pasti nggak akan masuk kalau nggak ada logic.
Okay. Technically, seberapa challenging atau difficult maksudnya untuk private sector masuk ke sektor ini? What kind of expertise that they will require?
Kalau any sector or just because it's a very
supply chain, transportation,
I think you know again let's take an example of cold chain. Pasti you need team that understands cold chain. It's not just that's a very good point actually. Karena this modal is penting banget ya. Especially apalagi di sini modal, cost of money in Indonesia is a bit expensive. Kan?
Yeah.
But modal alone bukan guarantee untuk sukses kan. Yeah, so you have to have the SDM has to be cutting edge. The SDM, yeah. Forget technology. Karena you need people who understand that particular field and will be able to make that asset run. Otherwise you will see it will become a white elephant ya. Asset yang lihat canggih tapi gak bisa berguna untuk yang optimal ya. So it's the people going in, they have to think, okay, am I going to acquire a company? Tapi kalau gak bisa acquire, how are they going to train the current SDM? Yeah? So you see some company, it's not again cold chain, they're saying will grow by 500% di dalam 10 tahun ini. So for sure the SDM gak cukup ya. So you can imagine the opportunity, challenge, tapi opportunity juga kan. Challenge karena how do you get future SDM untuk ini saat growth? And but the opportunity for people to become cold chain professionals, I'm just giving this one example ya. Itu cuma
cold chain alone.
Itu cold chain alone.
Okay.
Terus gimana kalau akhirnya ada intermodal yang akan maju? There are some companies that have started now ya, which I'm saying single digit companies in a country of our size yang udah mulai coba intermodal. But imagine as that grows. Untuk pelabuhan, of course, is a little bit more. You need your more security certificate. You need your technical certification. Besides the will and the money, ya. Tapi di situ, ya, we still need to learn from global players. For now, I go back to the India example, ya. Kalau 20-an tahun lalu, grup seperti Adani, GMR, JVK, mereka mulai partner dengan grup asing. Contoh, I think Adani had a partner with Dubai Port for something in India Barat. GMR partner sama grup Malaysia untuk New Delhi. Now 20 years later, they're gone overseas sendiri. Dan di India juga Adani udah mulai menang concession dari pemerintah sendiri. Gak butuh global partner lagi. Karena di dalam 20 tahun mereka udah bikin.
So there are transfer of knowledge.
Transfer of So going to your question ya, if groups over here kita fokus ke local mau begitu, they have to be ready. Firstly they have to be ready for long term planning. Itu gak bisa seperti gaya aja. Supply chain looks cool, looks sexy ya. Kita masuk. Terus setelah 2-3 tahun lihat wah ini susah ya. Ya udah kita mundur aja ya. It doesn't work. These guys everyone says saat saya ketemu teman-teman di Menhub atau mana-mana, they always say, India ya, GMR amazing, what they done, Adani amazing. Because banyak orang Indonesia professional, they look at India as an example. It's not just something I am saying and inventing. They can see the similarity. But the fact is, these are not overnight kan. Bisa bilang 20-an tahun. So what we are talking about now is relevant to 20 years from now, which is almost dovetailing sama Indonesia Mas.
Okay.
If we don't start now, we're going to be still talking the same thing for the next 10 years, and that means we'll be 10 years behind. Our grandkids will be talking about it, and kita bikin beban untuk mereka. Daripada itu harus kita coba kejar sekarang biar nanti untuk mereka bisa fokus ke yang lain, advanced value addition.
Bro, lo tuh kan sekarang kan jadi advisor untuk 2 big companies ya. Satu tuh dari somewhere lah di luar Indonesia. Satu lagi juga somewhere di luar Indonesia. Yang satu konsentrasinya lebih banyak ke port and shipping. Satu lagi lebih banyak ke aviation lah gitu ya. Pengalaman berhubungan gitu ya dengan baik dengan regulator di sini, dengan sesama pengusaha di sini gitu. Pengalamannya bagaimana sejauh ini? Kan judulnya nih, ceritanya nih kan you're looking for joint venture opportunity, acquisition opportunity gitu lah. Apa yang kira-kira bisa diimprove kira-kira?
Well, okay, in one example ya, negara itu cukup historically akrab sama Indonesia. At the same time sometimes looked at as competitor. Itu yang aneh. Karena saya selalu bilang contohnya Dubai dan India. Historically 30 tahun lalu semua kargo yang keluar dari India hampir semua transship lewat Dubai. Jadi kalau kita bicara sama di Indonesia, kita akan bilang ya jangan pakai negara itu lagi untuk investasi di sini karena mereka akan mau kontrol Indonesia gak bisa maju.
Kita sebut aja lah ya Singapura gitu ya.
Nanti orang akan bilang saya agentnya Singapura. Kok gimana ya? Terus saya agent untuk berapa negara kalau gitu ya? Saya cuma agent untuk jembatan modal.
Bisa diverifikasi dengan saya nanti ya.
Saya cuma agent untuk jembatan modal asing, teknologi dan expertise masuk ke Indonesia biar transfer ke orang kita untuk future-nya. Tapi when it's convenient orang, oh you agent Singapore, you agent ini, it doesn't make sense. Back to my India example. Kalau 30-an tahun lalu gitu kan, hampir semua kargo lari ke Dubai untuk transshipment. Kalau India juga pikir begini, oh Dubai gak boleh ya masuk sini karena mereka akan kontrol kita. Tapi sekarang gimana? Dubai masih maju, India maju. Ada berapa investment dari Dubai, Middle East di India juga, di port and also, you know, nothing has changed. India has not, bukan mereka coba control. Ya, kita harus confident. As I said kan, jangan yang jingoism ya.
Jingoism.
Because it does not help the country. What helps the country is future thinking. Yes, kita gak bisa jual aset kita ke orang asing. Kita gak mau juga, saya gak mau. What we have to do is find the right model. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Ada success story yang di sini gak banyak tapi ada di Tanjung Priok, mungkin bisa bilang Kuala Namu, Batam. But more than that, ada success story yang di India, di Turki, di Filipina, di Malaysia, di Brazil. No, di mana? Bisa cek. We learn. And most of my friends yang ada di kementerian itu, they are hardworking professional who know this. So they study. What has to be done is political will. Kita negara yang dikit belakang kan, sorry to say, 20 years behind on some things, which we shouldn't be. Yang contoh jadi GDP cost tinggi. What is needed is, everything cannot be a priority kan. Or if it is a priority, harusnya yang ada, we have to push it top down. Jangan nanti ya bilang yang retorik, ya ini harus jadi, dan lupa next week ini harus jadi. Setahun depan lihat nothing has been done, because everyone is just saying, you know, shifting the goalpost tapi no focus. We have to get it done. Itu aja. So you know, so you know, I don't want to say it's to Singapore, but yeah, as you said, you've let the cat out of the bag gitu lah. So for me, you know, it's walaupun akrab, ya budaya mereka dan budaya Indonesia beda jauh. But that's the beauty of working and collaborating kan.
Betul. So,
accept it, use it. Kalau mereka negara apa, berapa ini population
6
juta. Masa mereka bisa control?
Betul.
What we need is we allow them in, because they need to grow kan. Mereka ada banyak modal tapi they don't have the space to grow. If they don't invest here, mereka akan cari yang lain. Terus masa kita mau lari ke Arab, ke China untuk cari investor? There is some success but not enough. When there is a neighbor just berapa 1.5 jam flight dari sini that needs to invest here, let them in lah. Ini juga it's like, it's apa ya, it's the wrong optics, wrong narrative kan. Kita mau kejar orang dari jauh berapa jam pesawatnya, they also welcome. But then when we feel stuck, kenapa? Ya udah masuk orang Singapura juga kan, atau orang Malaysia atau wherever. You know, so let them in within our safeguards. What will happen 20 tahun depan? Investment mereka akan maju, mereka juga happy, tapi trainingnya ke SDM kita yang akan turun ke next generation, our reputation will also grow. It's logical.
Absolutely.
So, the other party yang not Singaporean, it's been great. You know, people know what we do. Mereka sangat welcome, private sector dan government juga. And they want to learn from the experiences in those countries. Because we operate in Africa, in India, in Turkey, even in Europe, West Europe. So it's a nice mix of experience. Dan ada fokus ke automation, technology, sustainability, safety. So you know, it's been welcome. I must admit di Indonesia, yang the beauty of Indonesia is the culture. Tapi kadang-kadang yang sopan santun dan halus itu bisa bikin orang dari di luar frustrated banget ya. Kalau saya udah
maunya apa sih sebenarnya gitu kan,
yang bisa selesai di dalam 1 minggu butuh 3 bulan. But you know, let's admit that's the beauty of our culture. And it cannot change too much. Otherwise we'll not be Indonesia lagi kan.
Betul.
But at times, so because I see that kan, and I don't see it bukan karena saya ada mitra-mitra dari berapa negara, bukan yang 2 itu, dari hampir sekarang 9 negara ya.
Okay.
And all of them say, wow, you have to really be patient ya. Jam karet di sini itu luar biasa ya. What can finish in 1 week needs to take months at times. And that also is not just because of yang basa-basi atau terlalu sopan santun, but sometimes I think there are 2 issues. The silos are too many. Terlalu banyak silo di dalam structural, walaupun pemerintah atau sektoral atau BUMN, and then the data quality due to those silos is very poor.
Nah ini menarik nih, data quality. Pengalaman Bro Falken mengenai data di Indonesia gimana tuh?
Wah itu bro, kalau di sini ya, you must not just, usually I say triple check ya. Kalau di sini bisa triple check ya.
Triple check.
Cek sama otoritas data beda, cek sama operator data bisa beda, cek sama association data juga. I don't understand why. There seems to be no interest or respect for it. And that's not because I don't use one respect karena disrespect ya. There's never been a feeling to realize it ya. Karena data semua ada, pasti ada. And it's sitting across different, mungkin Bea Cukai punya, mungkin ada Badan Pusat Statistik punya, dan terus operator pelabuhan, KSOP, otoritas bandara, kereta api. Everyone's sitting on data. No one's pulling it together and cleaning it up. GIGO kan, garbage in, garbage out. Data is the key. Kita lihat back to my film, 23% logistic cost di GDP. How do you decide kan? How to reduce the cost? Reduce the cost karena optimalkan capacity kan. Jangan ada 100 truck ke sini terus kosong balik kan. Kalau bisa optimalkan 50 truck aja. Contoh. Same, gimana caranya belly space Garuda selalu bleeding juga kan. How to optimize the belly space biar saat balik dari Maluku mungkin extra tuna fish, contoh ya. This example. Create cargo flow extra. How do you do it if your data is not entirely accurate? And not only a micro data of Garuda, but macro data of Garuda. Maluku ini mungkin bisa, nanti kita bisa bikin kolaborasi sama logistic player untuk kumpul kargo dari yang pulau-pulau kecil juga biar nambah kan. Because data is, you start off on one thing kan, tapi analisisnya, sebenarnya dari Ambon saya nggak butuh cuman kargo dari Ambon, saya bisa feeding dari hinterland Ambon yang pulau kecil yang nggak ada banyak opsi. Mereka bisa masuk mungkin by truck or by tongkang ke sana. Create that, but you create it how? By data. Kalau nggak ada data, we are only feeling kan, ini gimana ya, lihat potential, we keep hearing kan, potential ini, potential itu, but how do we know the exact? How do you invest?
They know there is potential,
but it's like feeling.
Tapi feeling
ya. Ini yang famous story kan, yang gajah sama 5 orang buta kan.
Betul.
One guy
satu pegang buntut, satu pegang kuping.
So everyone's feeling, I'm feeling it, you're feeling it. But how do we sit it? First we clean up the data, the consistency and the availability. Cleaning up data is great, tapi in the end it's masih gigo. Kenapa? Each person will have a different reason to analyze kan. Kalau saya dari business aviation will analyze what's going on, can I optimize, kenapa kargo harus lewat Semarang terus feeding lagi ke Jakarta, can I instead consolidate in Jogja karena that Central Java. How I look at data will be different from what you look at data. Same data. Tapi firstly we need the data. We need it and we need to make sure it is clean and it's consistent and it's a discipline. Because without that how will we invest? Itu contohnya capacity kan, sama untuk investment. How do we decide? Selanjutnya kalau setahun depan pemerintah bilang private rail cargo operator bisa masuk kerjasama sama kereta api bla bla bla, they'll think again same, there is potential, but is it? Everyone's feeling in the dark then for the data, taking guesses. It's I like to say, maybe the government, pemerintah harus bikin I don't know if Temasek is the right example. They need a central economic intelligence unit.
Oke.
Dan itu pasti
mungkin di bawah Menkominfo gitu ya.
Yeah.
Direktorat Jenderal Data dan Intelligence.
And it cuts through all the red tape.
Yeah.
Jadi semua harus cooperate feed data. Feed data dan harus cooperate kalau mereka bilang clean the data. And consistently like a discipline. Itu cuma step pertama. Mungkin butuh 3-5 tahun to get it cleaned up. The real value is when that data looks clean. To use it with the pemerintah, investor di luar, local player. Hey, here's the data. You want to pay for it or you want to work with us? Gimana? And then you suddenly parcel out the data. This is the potential for mungkin rail network di Sulawesi. Biar semua seafood dan rumput laut Sulawesi bisa kumpul di Makassar. It's not just a theory how someone is sending cargo through Manado, dari Kendari ke Surabaya, but suddenly you can make a decision, kan? Calculate what's the decision on it. Same thing on maybe consolidating air freight di Surabaya. Right now it's all feel in the dark, get a feel, talk to your friends, association, make a bit of guess in the air. Oh, gini. We think we are right.
Kalau bicara mengenai supply chain, intermodal transportation itu sekarang nomenklatur di bawah Departemen Perhubungan itu udah ada belum, Bro?
Ada. Barusan berapa bulan lalu. But I think they're just the name.
Baru namanya.
Nama aja. Belum ada orang.
Pejabatnya lagi nyari kan lo aja kali.
Wah, bro, ini mungkin I thought you're my friend ya. Ya saya bisa bantu di sana pasti, tapi I don't think I can sit there lah. Yang orang-orang kenal saya tahu lah, saya nggak bisa duduk lama di satu tempat ya. On the move. Logistik kan on the move.
Orang lapangan ya.
Tapi it's needed, bro. There's so much of potential ya. Intermodal itu is not just about our BUMN is untapped potential juga. Atau Pelindo, Angkasa Pura, Kereta Api, they're all sitting on amazing assets, and by themselves they're doing a great job. Tapi
jadi masih silo gitu ya, masih satu gitu
the
ya.
Central economic unit, he'll have to think on data, but it could have a central action unit that can cut across and see, there's a potential. Kalau saya link Kereta Api di Semarang sama Angkasa Pura di Jogja dengan Pelindo di Surabaya.
Nice.
And that goes into a plan and give it to, say, pihak China, Dubai, Singapore, Canada. Hey guys, can you support us create a... It becomes a interesting packet, kan?
Nice.
It's all there. And these are amazing assets, and we have some very good people in the BUMN. Kalau lihat di dalam 10-an tahun lalu, the number of professionals going into BUMN juga amazing, kan?
Banyak dari private juga.
But it's good if we can somehow have certain centralized decision making, and I think that is where guys like some of the sovereign wealth funds maupun Singapore, Dubai and all have benefited. Dubai juga, I've heard they have their central unit that then, not on a regular basis but on a strategic basis, checks between their aviation unit, their port unit.
Sorry, which country is it?
Dubai.
Okay.
They have a central unit.
Central unit, okay.
Yang check, karena they have the aviation company, they have Dubai ports, they have Emirates Airline. They have a central unit that does some synergy checking when promoting to other countries.
Interesting.
It's interesting. They allow them to work as themselves. They don't interfere too much. Tapi kalau ada potential yang bisa bantu negara, then make the companies profitable. Karena it's all commercial.
Okay.
They do it. Singapore, I'm sure, is doing it. You can imagine. Hong Kong juga. So we should do it here. But of course, again, di Indonesia kadang-kadang kita mau semua yang cepat ya. Cepat, besar, gampang. Gak ada lah, bro. Cepat, besar, dan gampang. Kita harus lihat yang scalable dan sustainable aja. And that takes time.
It takes political will juga, saya rasa.
I was trying to avoid saying that, but it's
I'm summarizing it for you.
Because otherwise it's all rhetoric, and every year we hear the same thing. Nothing changes. Or changes in snail space. Yang bisa di dalam 5 tahun butuh 15 tahun gitu lah. So if we have the political will, everything is there. And
True.
Sometimes Karena saya naturalisasi kan, orang pikir wah gila ini kan suka kerja lebih ke public private sector. Lalu masyarakat sini kadang-kadang pikir wah kalau kerja sama pemerintah itu pasti ada masalah apa, sorry to say, korupsi atau lazy. It's wrong. I mean I'm doing this kan udah hampir 10 tahun. I mean, there are issues everywhere, public private sector, different countries. Most of the people I deal with really professional, dedicated, but they are in their roles. They also have to, for them, they can only do what they can do. Harus, as you said, leadership, political will, to pull those, to make it into something different. Otherwise, they will do what they can within their sphere of influence. Kan?
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Menarik banget nih Bro Falkin nih. Kayaknya kita harus ngomong mungkin 2 jam 3 jam. Tapi we're running out of time.
Minum dulu ya.
Ya silakan. Iya. Iya. Mudah-mudahan kita bisa sambung lagi other time. Tapi notes taken. Some interesting points. Jadi kalau berdasarkan pembicaraan kita tadi itu nomor 1 data. Ya, itu penting sekali ya. Terus nomor 2 ya political will ya. Bagaimana caranya untuk orchestrating all the activities gitu kan, untuk menjadi sesuatu yang istilahnya menjadi satu ya nilai jual yang besar gitu loh untuk negara gitu loh.
Kalau lihat e-commerce-nya and where our position is kan Asia. Sorry, I know we need to wrap up kan. Asia Pacific connecting to Africa itu dan North South juga. We actually well positioned kan to be a hub. Tapi politically people have been pushing Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Dubai. We cannot push because historically people think Indonesia gak serious and it's a single.
Okay.
But if we get our act together, regulation, structuring, and then the data to make our value proposition, we can start pulling people in one by one. Gitu.
Alright. Okay. Thank you waktunya, Bro Falkin.
My pleasure.
Terima kasih.
Really nice way to start the year.
Buat sambil mikir juga mau ngapain gua tahun ini gitu kan.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Look forward to see you again.
Okay. Thank you Bro Falkin. Saudara, akhir dari podcast kita hari ini dengan Falkin Clive de Mello. Semoga bermanfaat. Silakan subscribe, like and share Dunia Pro di YouTube dan TikTok dan Spotify. Terima kasih.